It's 1916, and as per usual, something is going wrong somewhere in the world. And that place happens to be Europe, where literally everything is going wrong. Things were going especially bad for Great Britain due to the whole losing like a million young men in poisonous mud shebang, so they decided that it was time to shake things up. Alright guys, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna make an armored tractor with guns. Nice. So they did it, and it worked, and they won the war, and the first tank was born. Far away on the Scandinavian peninsula, the neutral country of Sweden was watching all this with a keen interest. And speaking of Sweden, this video was brought to you by Vikings, War of Clans. Connor, you know that even if you're just ironically advertising for them, you're still doing exactly what they want, except for free. Sweden's a country in Northern Europe that is mostly known for its cold weather, clean energy, and chronic lack of sunlight, but also tanks, which is way cooler. Sweden first meddled in the field of armored vehicles after World War I when they hit up their friends in Germany and asked for some help building a few tanks. The only problem was that because of the Treaty of Versailles, Germany wasn't allowed to build tanks, but the treaty didn't say anything about tractor parts that just so happened to also work as tank parts, so the issue was quickly resolved. The first Swedish tank was creatively named the Stridsvagn M21, which translates to Tank Model 21. Really just makes you quake with fear, doesn't it? Over the years, and with even more German support, the Swedes refined the M21 and eventually created the M31 by adding a bigger gun, better armor, and a drizzle of lingonberry sauce. These new tanks began to replace the old ones in 1931. However, by the late 1930s, the political landscape in Europe had started getting a little spicy again, and Sweden's old M31 wasn't looking so hot anymore, so Sweden began desperately designing a new tank to be ready before the war started. But then Germany invaded Poland, and Sweden still didn't have a tank that could even hope to stand up against the German panzers. This could have been GG for Sweden, but they got lucky, and this is what happened during the first year of the war. Mine. You good? Mine. However, now that Germany had a ton of troops just hanging out near the Swedish border, Sweden finally began production of the Stridsvagn M40, which was a completely new design that featured a larger gun, thicker armor, and a very modern turret design and suspension. Although it never saw combat, it was very much comparable to many German medium tanks and would have performed well. Or maybe it would have sucked and Sweden would speak German for a while, who knows. It should also be mentioned that Sweden had kind of an interesting relationship with Germany. They were neutral, so they openly traded vast quantities of iron. This iron was so important to the German economy that the Allies considered invading Sweden early in the war. Either way, Swedish iron ore continued to fuel the Nazi war machine for the entire conflict. I guess you could say all you need is iron ore to steal Hitler's heart. Alright Connor, that's 2 videos in a row where you've made a poorly thought out and decidedly unfunny Hitler joke. We're gonna have to demonetize you. None of my videos have ads. How popular do you think I am? Dang it! We'll get him next time, boys. Oh look, it's 1945, 70 million people are dead, 2 nukes have been dropped, World War II is over, and Sweden can get back to making Volvos and meatballs. Except, no. Because the Soviet Union is a super big bully and Sweden is uncomfortably close to them, so it's time for more military buildup. Yay! The next Swedish tank to get made was the Stridsvagn 74, which was basically just a souped up Stridsvagn M40 with an uglier turret. Overall, pretty boring tank, and I don't feel like wasting any more time talking about it. During the Cold War, which was known in Sweden as a normal temperature war, Sweden did what it did best and just stayed out of the whole thing. However, since the Soviet Union's track record of respecting other nations' neutrality is subpar at best, Sweden still felt that it was necessary to keep the whole homegrown tank thing going. Thus, their next creation, the Stridsvagn 103 or S-Tank, was definitely a weird one. How do you like it? It's called the S-Tank. I'm not sure. It doesn't have a turret, and the name doesn't really fit with our current theme. Yeah, does the S stand for stupid? No, it stands for Stridsvagn. Sorry, man. Not interested. But it'll stimulate local industry. Oh, you right? Even though it didn't have a turret, the S-Tank still performed well on tests, and its low profile made it hard to spot. My theory, though, is that the Swedes were just so traumatized from how ugly their last tank's turret was that they just decided to get rid of the whole thing completely. From 1967 to 1971, 290 S-Tanks were produced and stationed all around Sweden in case of a Soviet invasion that thankfully never came. Eventually, though, all good things must come to an end. Even the glorious Soviet Union. The Cold War is now over, but the S-Tank still doesn't have a turret, and recent advances in gun stabilization systems mean that all the other tanks can shoot and move at the same time. All the other tanks, except for the S-Tank. Oh well. Tear it down and build a new one. This time, the Swedes went back to their boring names and called their new main battle tank the Stridsvagn 122. Based on the German Leopard 2, the 122 is a formidable machine that is still in use today. It features revolutionary technologies like gun stabilization, a smoothbore cannon, advanced armor, and a turret. The Stridsvagn 122 hasn't seen any combat yet, but since Sweden is surrounded by hyper-aggressive neighbors like Norway and Finland, I say it's only a matter of time. Speaking of time, it's time to end the video. Wow, what an original and funny way to end your script. I tried a couple things different in this video. Let me know in the comments what you think and make sure to like and subscribe. Thank you.